When my husband announced he'd accepted a 2-year overseas contract, everyone congratulated him. What an opportunity. So proud of you. This will set you up for life. I smiled through all of it. At home, I cried. Not because I'd miss him, because I'd finally heard the truth in his tone. The job wasn't discussed. It wasn't a joint decision. It was presented like a finalized deal. Flights booked. Housing arranged. Start date confirmed. We'll FaceTime, he said casually. It'll fly by. We had $375,000 in joint savings. A house paid halfway off. No kids. No major debts. On paper, we were stable. But stability isn't the same as partnership. For years, I adjusted to his relocations, his long hours, his temporary sacrifices. Every compromise tilted in one direction. Mine. When he left for this contract, something in me stopped negotiating. At the airport, I cried into his shoulder. He kissed my forehead. You'll be fine, he said. That was the moment I realized he truly believed I would just wait. The day after his flight, I met with an attorney. Quietly, calmly, prepared. In our state, marital assets are subject to equitable division. Joint savings included. The $375,000 wasn't his or mine. It was ours. And if I filed while he was overseas, jurisdiction remained local. I didn't empty the account recklessly. I transferred exactly half, $187,500, into a separate account in my name, as advised legally. Documented. Transparent. Traceable. Then I filed for divorce. No screaming. No dramatic confrontations. Just paperwork. He found out 3 weeks later when he was served at his temporary housing abroad. The call came at 2 a.m. my time. What is this? He demanded. It's me choosing. I replied evenly. You're overreacting. It's 2 years. It's 10. I corrected softly. 10 years of decisions made without me. Silence. Then anger. Accusations about money. About betrayal. But here's what he didn't understand. The money wasn't revenge. It was security. For the first time in a decade, I wasn't adjusting my life around someone else's timeline. I refinanced the house into my name using my portion. Took a consulting contract I'd turned down twice before because it required travel he didn't approve. Ironically, I traveled more in 6 months than he had in a year. Mediation happened remotely. The division ended up close to what I'd already separated. Clean. Predictable. Adult. When he came back to finalize paperwork in person, he looked stunned, not angry. Just confused. I thought you were happy, he said quietly. I was compliant, I replied. That's different. There were no fireworks. No dramatic final showdown. Just 2 signatures. People assume strength is loud. That leaving requires chaos. Sometimes it's quieter than that. Sometimes it looks like tears at an airport, followed by a transfer confirmation the next morning. The divorce papers didn't explode his life the way he expected them to. They rearranged it. At first, he called daily. Anger, disbelief, negotiation. He said I was impulsive. Said I was lonely and projecting. Said we could revisit things after his contract ended. That word again. Revisit. As if I were a bookmark he could slide back to when convenient. I stopped answering emotional calls and redirected everything through attorneys. Not out of cruelty. Out of clarity. When conversations stay verbal, they drift. When they're written, they settle. He accused me of planning this before he left. He wasn't entirely wrong. Not the divorce, but the awareness. The awareness had been building for years. In small dismissals. In decisions framed as updates instead of discussions. In phrases like, you'll understand, instead of, what do you think? When someone consistently informs instead of includes, resentment doesn't arrive loudly. It accumulates quietly. I reviewed our finances carefully during those first months. I'd always managed the spreadsheets, the investment accounts, the retirement projections. He liked the benefits of organization without participating in the structure. With my portion secured, I diversified. Conservative index funds. A small real estate investment. Emergency reserves untouched. Not dramatic risks, measured independence. That's what he never saw coming. Not revenge. Preparation. Friends reacted in two camps. Some whispered that I should have waited. That 2 years wasn't forever. Others admitted, privately, that they understood exactly why I didn't. It's not about the distance, one friend said over coffee. It's about the pattern. Exactly. During mediation, he tried one last angle. We were building something, he said through the screen. I agreed. But I was the only one holding the blueprint. That landed heavier than anger would have. The house was the final negotiation point. I chose to keep it, not out of attachment, but because I could. My income, combined with strategic use of my settlement portion, made it feasible. Stability by choice feels different than stability by dependency. When he flew back months later to sign the final agreement in person, the meeting was brief, professional, almost sterile. He looked at the kitchen, fresh paint, different furniture placement, sunlight hitting the floor where his desk used to be. You changed a lot, he said. I stopped waiting, I replied. He asked if there was someone else. There wasn't. There didn't need to be. Leaving isn't always about running toward another person. Sometimes it's about running toward yourself. After he returned overseas to finish out his contract, alone this time, the calls stopped. The anger cooled into distance. And I realized something unexpected. I wasn't relieved. I was steady. Steady in a way I hadn't felt in years. The $375,000 had once represented shared dreams, vacations postponed, renovations planned, someday investments. Now my portion represented something simpler. Autonomy. People like dramatic narratives. They want betrayal or scandal or secret affairs. But the truth is quieter. He left for 2 years believing I would preserve the space he occupied. Instead, I used the space to see clearly. And once you see clearly, pretending becomes impossible. A year later, his contract ended. He called calm, small. I'm moving back. Do you regret it? I thought of the past year, consulting trips I chose, mornings in a house that felt mine, finances I managed freely. No, I said. He hesitated. I didn't realize you felt alone. I wasn't alone. I was sidelined. I replied. Presence isn't just being there. It's partnership. We met once more for closure. No bitterness. Just acknowledgement. Stability means inclusion, not control. The $375,000 isn't betrayal. It's agency. My half secured a future on my terms. People assume I won. I didn't. Winning is waking up without negotiating your worth, knowing life continues if someone leaves. He left expecting distance. I used it to measure the marriage. And once measured honestly, it didn't fit anymore. Months later, I looked back without anger. The divorce, the money, the independence, it wasn't revenge. It was clarity. I built a life on my terms, traveled, invested, and grew. He returned to find I didn't need him. True power isn't taking. It's standing steady, knowing your worth, and living without waiting for anyone's permission. The freedom wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet and steady. I made decisions for myself, not for anyone else. Every trip I took, every investment I made, every late-night project I tackled reminded me that I was no longer sidelined. He came back expecting control or guilt. Instead, he found a life fully my own. And in that silence, in that certainty, I realized the real victory wasn't financial. It was reclaiming my time, my choices, and my peace. Nothing he could